my family and their friends, they said, you know, it should have had not the Will Smith action, but the Will Smith energy, where you stand up and be like,
Kevin Hart should have responded differently.
right, responded right then and there, like, wait, hold up.
You've done good though, Kevin. The black community is so proud of you right now. George Floyd is looking up at us all, laughing so hard that he can't breathe.
George Floyd's family is now publicly slamming Kevin Hart after those controversial George Floyd jokes during his roast. And honestly, people did not expect Kevin Hart to end up in the middle of something this serious, because now the conversation is no longer just about whether the joke was too far. People are actually starting to question why Kevin sat there laughing while George Floyd's name kept getting dragged into the roast again. And with George Floyd's brother now saying Kevin should have stepped in and shut the whole thing down, the internet is looking at Kevin very differently right now, especially because Kevin Hart literally attended George Floyd's funeral back in 2020. So now people are saying, hold on, how do you go from publicly mourning somebody to laughing while comedians joke about the way they died? This got uncomfortable fast.
We now have a job to do, which is elevate our voices, use our platforms, and really push the initiative for change. So, for me, it was a no-brainer just to come.
Now, in case y'all missed it, all this drama exploded after comedian Tony Hinchcliffe made a joke involving George Floyd during Kevin Hart's roast, and the joke instantly made the room tense.
You've done good though, Kevin. The black community is so proud of you right now. George Floyd is looking up at us all, laughing so hard that he can't breathe. God bless you, Kevin. God bless this room.
Now, the second that clip hit social media, people lost it. Because for a lot of viewers, this wasn't one of those edgy celebrity jokes people just brush off and move past. George Floyd's death was tied to one of the biggest protests and racial justice movements in recent history.
We're the press, we're media. Security forces have been aggressively pushing back the protesters. They came determined to make sure that this night would be different than the others, to retake the streets.
So hearing his death turned into a punchline immediately rubbed people the wrong way, especially black viewers online. One comment that went viral said, "His roast was good until that joke. It's nothing funny about that. I also don't get their infatuation with George Floyd at all." And honestly, that comment kind of summed up how a lot of people were feeling. Because even people who usually love dark comedy were sitting there like, okay, but why keep going back to this specifically? And the thing making it even worse is that this isn't even the first time Tony Hinchcliffe has joked about George Floyd either. People immediately started bringing up the roast of Tom Brady back in 2024, where Tony also made another controversial George Floyd joke on Netflix.
Like the final boss in George Floyd, the video game.
So now online, people are saying this is starting to look less like shock comedy and more like an obsession. And once George Floyd's brother Terrence Floyd finally spoke out publicly, things escalated even more. Because Terrence basically said Kevin Hart should have stopped the joke immediately.
So the reason why I felt kind of uneasy is because I was trying to figure out, what did that have to do? What kind of punchline was that?
Terrence Floyd recently sat down with Lauren LaRosa, and during the interview, he made it very clear that the family was hurt watching the roast clips go viral online. But what really shocked people was when he specifically brought Kevin Hart into the conversation. According to Terrence, Kevin should have brought the same energy Will Smith brought to the Oscars when Chris Rock joked about Jada Pinkett Smith. Now, obviously, he wasn't saying Kevin should physically slap anybody, but he basically meant Kevin should have immediately shut the joke down instead of laughing along with it. And honestly, once he said that, social media completely split in half, because one side was saying, exactly, Kevin was the host. He had the power to stop it. But the other side was like, hold on, it's a roast. Everybody knew offensive jokes were coming. And that's really where this whole conversation started getting messy. Roasts have always had this reputation of being no-limits comedy events where literally nobody is safe. People joke about deaths, addiction, cheating scandals, divorces, trauma, basically everything. But critics are saying George Floyd shouldn't have even been part of the conversation because his death wasn't celebrity gossip or some random pop culture moment. It became a symbol tied to racial injustice worldwide. And honestly, this debate gets complicated real fast, because even Kevin Hart himself later defended the roast format instead of distancing himself from the joke. In interviews and social media posts afterward, Kevin praised Tony Hinchcliffe and basically said everybody involved understood the assignment. which only made critics even angrier, because people expected Kevin to at least acknowledge why viewers were upset, especially after George Floyd's family publicly spoke out. But instead, Kevin seemed more focused on defending roast culture itself. And that's why some people online are now accusing Kevin of trying too hard to protect the comedy industry instead of protecting his image. One comment that started spreading everywhere said, "Dave Chappelle said a lot of those white comedians who stick to a racist shtick are not joking, and I will never not believe that." Once comments like that started gaining traction, the conversation got way deeper than just one roast joke. Now people were debating whether certain comedians use dark humor as cover to say things they already believe privately. Now, to be fair, Tony absolutely has supporters too. A lot of comedy fans are defending him hard right now and saying comedy is supposed to make people uncomfortable. Some people even argued that if roasts start having rules, then the entire format stops working. And honestly, that's probably why Kevin Hart refuses to back down publicly. Because from Kevin's perspective, once you start censoring roast jokes, where exactly do you draw the line? That's the argument defenders keep making. Now, as if all that wasn't bad enough already, the more clips started spreading, the worse things got for Kevin Hart. Because people also began pointing out another controversial moment from the roast involving Shane Gillis. During one part of the event, Shane joked about lynching Kevin Hart from a bonsai tree.
Like the whole thing about them saying he's so short they hang him on a bonsai tree.
Kevin's so short that they're gonna have to lynch him from a bonsai tree. That was 3 weeks of deliberation on that joke. I understand how serious the word lynch is, but bonsai is so funny.
And weirdly enough, Kevin actually laughed at the joke in the moment, which honestly shocked some viewers. And now some viewers are even questioning whether Kevin stayed quiet because he didn't want to upset the comedians involved or hurt Netflix financially. Because remember, Netflix has become very invested in roast content lately. The Tom Brady roast went massively viral. And these big controversial moments generate millions of clips, reactions, debates, and headlines online, which means outrage itself almost becomes part of the marketing. And honestly, people are starting to notice that pattern. Because every time one of these roast controversies happens, social media explodes for days. So critics are now asking whether shock value is becoming the entire business model. And that's another reason George Floyd's family is reportedly considering legal action, or at least exploring their options publicly. Now, to be clear, no lawsuit has officially been filed as of right now. But once people started hearing phrases like family considering legal action, the internet immediately locked in. Now it feels like Kevin Hart's entire public image could get dragged into a serious legal and cultural mess. And honestly, some people think Kevin underestimated how emotional this topic still is for millions of people. Because while some audiences moved on from the 2020 protests years ago, George Floyd's death is still deeply personal for many families and communities. So hearing it turned into a joke on a giant Netflix roast was always going to trigger backlash no matter who told the joke. One viral comment literally said, "He stumbled on that last delivery, he knew it was touchy." And truth be told, even some people defending Tony admitted the room itself seemed awkward after the joke landed. Because you could kind of feel people deciding in real time whether they should laugh or not, which honestly made the whole thing even more uncomfortable to watch back later. But I really want to know what you guys think about this because the internet is seriously split down the middle right now. Do you think Kevin Hart should have stepped in and stopped the George Floyd jokes immediately, especially considering his connection to the family? Or do you think people are taking roast comedy too seriously and everybody involved already knew controversial jokes were coming? And also, where do y'all personally draw the line when it comes to comedy? Because this debate is getting intense online.